What's up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, and this is the Wolf of All Streets podcast. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Lolli, a rewards application that's making it ridiculously easy to own Bitcoin by simply shopping online. With the onset of COVID and the rapidly increasing digital age, online shopping has become bigger than ever before. It's exactly this behavior that Lolli's capitalized on, and they are now rewarding users for their online purchases with Bitcoin, and we all love it. It's my intention to learn just how much growth Lolli is seeing and how the recent events like Tesla buying Bitcoin are playing into that growth. Alex Adelman, man, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Big fan of the show and glad to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, I feel like this has been due for a long time, so I'm glad we're doing it. So once again, you're listening to the Wolf of All Streets podcast, where twice a week I talk to your favorite personalities from the worlds of Bitcoin, finance, trading, art, music, sports, and politics. This podcast is powered by Blockworks, the fastest growing media company in the digital asset space. Blockworks has 20 Bitcoin and crypto podcasts. I'm excited to be part of their network. You can visit blockworks.co for access to the highest quality information in the space. You will not be disappointed. And if you like the podcast and follow me on Twitter, you need to check out my website and join my newsletter. You can do both of those things at thewolfofallstreets.io. So now to get to what's important. I'm in my 40s. But you're obviously younger and you graduated college only 10 years ago, right? And you're now the CEO of one of crypto's largest companies. How did that happen so fast? And did you expect to work in the crypto space?
Good question. I guess I've always had this belief in the democratization of commerce. I studied economics at university and got really fascinated with like microfinance and international economics. And I was always kind of perplexed every time I would learn about money or learn about the illusion of money, more so, of like why there was so much gray area, why there wasn't this like definitive sort of set rules with money and money printing and fiscal policies and everything that I was learning. And so very early on, I definitely had a lot of ideas around what does the future of money look like and how do we connect the world through commerce. And I think my first company that had a very similar thesis to Bitcoin, which was how do we democratize commerce? How do we give everyone in the world the ability to connect and buy and sell anywhere? And so a few years into building that company, when I learned about Bitcoin, I was like, everything that I was building that was native to Cosmic was then also native to this worldwide currency that was immediately accessible to I guess 3.5 billion people with an internet connection.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So then what made you transition from doing what you were doing to going basically all in on Bitcoin? Because you guys started long before this was a sure thing. I mean, it feels like a sure thing now, but you were already doing it before most people had even heard of it. And the people who had were comparing it to Beanie Babies and tulips.
So I think we're all like summations of our life experiences, right? And I've been building. I was a kid of the internet. I got like a computer at age like 11, 12. And I very much like, when I would play video games, I would then want to go build video games. And so I remember like, early on, like connecting with people all over the world from a very early age and just not really seeing sort of the walls of my surroundings. I didn't really understand geographic constraints. And I really didn't understand fiat constraints either from an early age, because I'd be like sending money all around the world to hire developers in Indonesia and Ukraine. And the level of effort and how many times I got like flagged by my bank, flagged by PayPal was just like countless. And I'm like, why? I'm moving money to another human being. And then they believe that this has value and I believe this has value. Why do we need 100 middlemen to get from one place to another? And this is like at age like 16. So, fast forward, like when I learned about Bitcoin, it was just made so much sense to me, like why it should exist and why it was like the clear and obvious future. And this was back in like 2013 when I had also been building, really a payments company, an e-commerce gateway. And we were hooked into about 99 different payment processors. And so I learned about Bitcoin. I'm like, well, let's just make it 100. And we went to all these merchants that we had worked with, the Targets of the world, the Macy's of the world, Shopify's. And I was like, let's just plug this in. Like, why would you not want an immutable currency where, there is some demand, people want to move money from here to there. And I got my first, I think, foray in understanding where Bitcoin had its like shortcomings and where we weren't going to see mass adoption in the early days, where I think a lot of people thought we would. And that element was payments. And, when we go back and read the original Satoshi white paper, it very much looks like a payment platform, right? If you're reading it literally, it is a P2P payment platform. And so I went to all these merchants, and their biggest feedback was consumers don't want to pay for it because number go up. The volatility of Bitcoin made it not really the best payment rails, because like, who wants to give away an asset that's going up over time? And then the other, and is highly volatile, and was way more volatile back then. And then the other thing on the volatility piece, the merchants didn't know what to do with it once they had it. There was no remittance network set up. There was no payment rails. So if, let's just say a Target were to accept Bitcoin, they would have to go build out a whole treasury department to go figure out what to do with it. Custody, everything. There was no, Coinbase custody out there. There was no, Grayscale and those sort of institutions that are out there now. So that was like my first foray. I was like, okay, Bitcoin is not going to be a payment rail from day one. It clearly is to some degree and for some people, but not for mass adoption. So fast forward a little bit, we built this company called COSMIC. It was a very difficult company to build, especially as a first-time founder. And we made it work in the end. We ended up getting, like, everybody started talking about the buy button, and we had become like the inventors of the buy button. And so everyone starts to look at our company as being like solving all the problems of the interconnectivity of online commerce. So we ended up getting bought by our biggest customer, which was Pop Sugar, to come and empower 1.2 billion in retail revenue running through ShopStyle. And after that, we grew about 10x post-acquisition. We ended up getting acquired again by a bigger company called Rakuten, which many people knew as Ebates at the time. And Ebates, for those of you who don't know, is the biggest cashback company in the US, many parts of the world, big Japanese conglomerate. So very quickly we got to, and we went in to go power like tens of billions of dollars of native commerce. So that was the initiative, at least. So we got to learn about international commerce, all the pain points of like fiat transfers and cashback, all the limitations of being built on top of fiat rails instead of crypto rails. And that's where this idea came to be. I was like, wow, this is the best way in the world to distribute Bitcoin to people through rewards, because you're giving it to people as an investment. They're happy because you're giving it to them. You're not taking it away from them. And then it's also the best red pill in the world too, because you're putting it side by side with cash back and points. And we all know Bitcoin is better than cash. Bitcoin is better than points. It's not some arbitrary number. It is a fixed amount. So there's only 21 million of these things. We started this thing 3 years ago when it was at like 4 or 5K. Now our points, our cash back is now 10x, 11, 12x better than any of our competitors like Rakuten and Honey and points programs out there. So now we have all these like rabid, obsessed, amazing users that are like, I want, Bitcoin over cash. And we've really trained people to think objectively about their money and what they're earning back for their everyday shopping.
It's interesting because it feels like then in that context that 2020 was probably the perfect storm for you, because we had COVID. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people I spoke to feared that everything was going to die last February and March, and it was actually 180 degrees, right? Everyone started making more money, all these crazy things, at least anyone who was involved in the crypto space. But I have to imagine it was a perfect storm for you between COVID happening, the online shopping boom, but then also Bitcoin bottomed and has done nothing but go up since last March, right? And that all sort of happened at the same time. So as bad as it seemed, I mean, like you said, we're not only 13x from when you started, we're 13x from 11 months ago.
Exactly. So we had basically users that had essentially 2 years of earnings that have now seen, as you said, 12, 13x returns on their initial earnings. So yeah, I mean, people are pumped. And to your point too, on the non-obvious thing for people who come from crypto, the boom of online commerce is absolutely wild. Like we've seen like 50% increase across the board just in e-com, right?
Right.
And so we also changed a lot of our marketing to go from like travel to like health and wellness, vitamins. I mean, you can get anything on Lolli or earn Bitcoin back on just about anything at Lolli. So it's creating this ecosystem where you can earn on like online commerce. Like we definitely made a bet where, there's two bets you could really make. You could either go in-store commerce with like swipes on every card and stuff like that, or you could do pure online. And we took the pure online, and we couldn't clearly predict COVID was going to happen. And, you know, in no way would I ever wish it upon the world, but the net result has been very good for Lolli because we've been so focused on e-com.
I mean, is it your stance at this point that because we've seen this fundamental shift in behavior that brick and mortar is somewhat dead? I mean, who's going to the mall again when they realize how easy it is to buy everything they need online, even if COVID's gone and people are vaccinated? And I personally think there's been a behavioral shift and we're not going to really go back. Do you think the same?
Yes and no. I think that it is exaggerated how how bad it is. Retail's not dead. Like there's plenty of things that people want to do in store. Now, e-com has certainly been accelerated, but I mean, I've been in the e-commerce payment space for a long time, and the dream of 10 years ago is out and actually becoming alive today out of necessity, and that's the dream of omni-channel. So omni-channel is this sort of strategy philosophy in commerce where it's like it's all the same. It should all come from the same, you know, whether it's online, whether it's retail, you should have no disconnect between your online presence and your in-store presence. And so that's accelerated it for everybody. So now what we're going to see is just a way better experience where like I can go buy something online, pick it up in store within, you know, a few hours if I really want it then, or I'm going to have faster delivery, or I can use like, you know, retail as a place to try it on. And thus our rewards network should also be way easier to distribute across retail and e-com. So it's good for us because like right now we're getting ahead of the, you know, the cycle when everybody, you know, is vaccinated and we're back to, you know, the new normal. Like I want you to be able to go like swipe a card and go earn Bitcoin back on your everyday rewards that you go pick up your groceries or pick up your Adidas from the store. Like it should be completely seamless. And before there was this like disparate system where like online was so different than in store. Sure. Now it's all the same. So the same people that we're selling to that are running e-com are also running in store. And so we should have an easier path to distribution. You're going to have rewards no matter where you shop.
Can you talk about the nuts and bolts of how it actually works? So I think everyone knows, you use Lolli, you open it, you buy something, it gets a reward, but how does that happen? Where does that Bitcoin come from? Where does that Bitcoin go once you get it? You know, and then how do you redeem it?
Yeah, so we partner with these merchants. We now have over 1,000 merchants and counting, and we started with 500. And we partner with these merchants. They pay us when our users shop their sites, and then we split that with our users, sending the lion's share to our users, sending Bitcoin to their Lolli wallets. So it's pretty straightforward. It works very similarly to a cashback program. The biggest difference is that we actually set up a Bitcoin wallet for our users so that they have real Bitcoin, right. And then they can move that Bitcoin from our Lolli custodial wallet to any wallet in the world. They could move it to, you know, another custody provider. They could move it to their own Bitcoin address. They can do whatever they want with their Bitcoin. And, you know, if they really want to realize gains, which, you know, we don't recommend, we recommend holding. But if you want to realize your gains, you can also move it to your US dollar bank account. And that's, you know, a very attractive feature for a lot of newcomers that are looking at less as a future asset, and they're looking at it as an investment. And I think at some point we've all sold Bitcoin, you know, and regretted it, but you have to sell it to regret it, you know?
That's a good point. You have to feel the pain once so that you never want to feel it again, I guess. So exactly. I'm assuming the merchants pay you in dollars. You guys basically purchase Bitcoin.
Yes.
Or some mechanism, right? It would be really cool if all these merchants all of a sudden had huge Bitcoin wallets and we're paying you guys in Bitcoin. But I guess that's not.
That's the vision. That's the vision. So if you think about like what an open commerce network looks like, that you nailed it. Like everybody would have their Bitcoin balance sheet, their fiat balance sheet, and people would be able to pay and receive whatever they want. So you'd have like, you know, essentially atomic swaps where anybody would be able to, you put anything in and the merchant or person gets anything out. And so it's kind of like, you know, that meme, like choose your fighter, like you get to choose your currency and whatever you pay with and whatever you receive. And that's the future. Like we should have the freedom, everyone in the world should have the freedom to choose whatever currency, whatever money serves them best. And for many people, Bitcoin serves them best. It gives you freedom over your money.
What's interesting though is that if you ask the United States government, they won't tell you that it's money or currency, and they'll tell you that it's property. So are there tax implications that may not exist with receiving dollar bonuses or points that do exist with receiving Bitcoin?
So we take the stance that, we are a rebates company first and foremost. We happen to give Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin, I mean, that could be points, that could be anything. It just happens to be Bitcoin. And the rebates law, and I'm not a CPA, I will
Sure.
not give tax advice, but we have blog posts from from CPAs out there, and that rebates are not taxable income. That said, you you do assume that, like, if Bitcoin goes up, you have to, clearly realize those gains. But you are not taxed on your income for rebates, which is a nice little like hack.
Yeah. So the stance is that you're not taxed on getting the Bitcoin from Lolli as you would if someone paid you with it or something, but you obviously have to report a capital gain whenever you sell it.
Correct.
Be cool if you could write off a loss if all of a sudden it went to nothing, but I don't think that'll happen.
You probably could. You probably could.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, I'm sure. So what are the big plans then for 2021? Now, obviously things are established. There's this crazy growth and you've got to be looking to the future.
Yeah, we've got some really big plans for mobile. We just launched our what we're calling like our pre-app, and it has like a kind of a faucet type feel. So you come in, you have like this loot box, you press it every day, you get a random amount of Bitcoin. Right now, I think it's up to a million Satoshis a day that we're giving out. So people are earning like a serious amount of money at this point on there. And clearly we have a real business model that supports that. Our merchants pay us. And so we actually you can download the app today. And then over the next few weeks, you're actually going to get to do the same thing that you can do on web, which is earn when you shop. So, going to all your favorite merchants that you can already go through, and we're going to launch a lot more, but Postmates and Kroger and eBay and booking.com, all these sort of merchants that we already have, now you can go order from your phone and earn Bitcoin from anywhere. So really just opening up commerce more, giving people more ability, more opportunities to earn Bitcoin on their everyday purchases.
I actually just had Catherine Coley, the CEO of Binance US, on the show. So I think we all saw the sort of growth in interest in trading in markets over 2021, over 2020, right? People were bored. They didn't have anything to gamble on. They got stimulus checks. They started putting money in markets. And she told me that in January of 2021, they did more volume and more signups than all of 2020 combined. So like really insane parabolic growth. Have you guys seen that level or a similar level of insane parabolic growth, over the past few months?
Absolutely. Our number is the same. Catherine's actually we went to college together, actually.
Really?
She's a fellow Tar Heel. Yeah. It's such a small world. And so, yeah, we go way back. That's awesome. And for them, and we're seeing the exact same thing. We literally doubled over the last few months. So it's been amazing. And the whole team effort, there's so much good, organic growth happening. People are coming into Bitcoin. They want it for free. They want to dip their toes in it before they maybe make a big purchase of Bitcoin or investment in Bitcoin. So I like to think of Lolli as being the app that will bring Bitcoin to the next 100 million people. And because it makes it so easy, it takes all the risk out of it. You're just shopping as you normally would. And then you get Bitcoin. So for a lot of people, it's a good training wheels to get involved. But then we have two customers. We have our Bitcoin maximalists that want as much Bitcoin as possible. People have to go buy things. You can't, no matter how much Bitcoin you want or need, you can't give up groceries, right? So it's you're still going to go buy things online for your family, your friends, gifts, the essentials. And so we're like, well, why not earn Bitcoin on it? So we have those customers. And then we have all these people, these no coiners that are coming in that are saying I want Bitcoin instead of cash. I want Bitcoin instead of points. And then those users are growing tremendously. So we're well over 50% of our users are brand new to crypto, have never touched it before. And those are the users I'm honestly most excited about, because that's going to take, Bitcoin to the moon. That's going to take Bitcoin to the masses. And, our goal, let's go bring Bitcoin to billions of people. And that's our real initiative here. I
was going to say, and I mean, you basically just stated it for me, but I look at the growth of these exchanges like Binance.us. And one could obviously argue that it's because people are more interested in speculating and not necessarily interested in Bitcoin as an asset. But the fact that you're seeing the same kind of growth with people that literally just want to get more Bitcoin, to me is so much more bullish. And I'm just like thrilled to hear it.
Yeah, and the non-obvious piece, and you nailed it on the consumer side. The non-obvious piece is like that no one actually gets to see is on the merchant side. So we have a two-sided market, right? So we've got merchants on one end, we've got consumers on the other. Everyone sees like all these consumers are coming in, everyone's really pumped. Nobody sees the emails I'm getting from merchants being like, merchants that told me no 3 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago, now they're like, oh my God, you were right. Like, consumers want Bitcoin. Our numbers speak for themselves. We have absurd amount of users that are coming in. And the beautiful part about our model is that we basically have a forcing function to get merchant adoption and consumer adoption, and we don't have to be a payment company. So we're getting Bitcoin friendly merchants all day. Like, Kroger came on board the other day and eBay came on board the other day. We just landed one of our biggest merchants of all time the other day from a conversation I had on Clubhouse. Like, we're getting these merchants that are coming on board because they see that Bitcoin is a thing that they need to be a part of. And they can't go convince their CEO that Bitcoin should be a payment rail, and maybe it shouldn't. But it's almost like training wheels for the merchant as well. So we're at the forefront of both consumer adoption and merchant adoption, and that's the holy grail. And so play this out 5 years when we go to our merchants and we say, hey, look, we've got millions and millions or tens of millions of users that have Bitcoin in their wallet. They now want to pay with that. Then we go to the merchants and we say, let's go drop in Lolli Pay. Let's go drop in, Bitcoin Pay Server or whatever, is the best open commerce network, that's leveraging Bitcoin. And then let's go give our users the ability to pay with Bitcoin anywhere in the world. And so that's the future, right? That's where you create this beautiful like open source payment network through the rails of Bitcoin, and that's where you start to see the hints of hyperbitcoinization, coming through.
It's official. The digital art market is going mainstream. It's been exploding this past year with over 10 million in sales in December alone, and it's just getting started. There's no better time than now to diversify your holdings with art investments, which have long been seen as an asset class that's consistently outperformed the S&P 500. MakersPlace is the go-to premium marketplace for purchasing rare digital artworks from the world's top creators, like comic art legend Jose Delbo, Trevor Jones, digital wizard Pac, artists collected by MoMA, Guggenheim, and many others. They have new artwork drops twice a week where collectors have the opportunity to add a coveted piece of rare digital art to their portfolio. Artworks from these drops have a history of selling out within seconds of release and have been reselling several months later for upwards of 10x. Collectors can subscribe for exclusive drop notifications on makersplace.com/thewolf. You don't want to miss out on this action. Trust me. Okay, so with a weird, some might say, semi-post-apocalyptic 2020 very much done and dusted, it's time to tear the new year in two and send your Bitcoin into play with a killer promo from the team at Bitcasino. Drop a 5 milli Bitcoin minimum on any of the platform's 2,000 or so Bitcoin slots and get 200 free spins to use on the Legacy of Dead. To claim your 200 free spins, use the promo link bitcasino.io/Scott. That's SCOTT. Log in or register an account, head over to the rewards section, and enable the bonus called Legacy of Dead 200FS. Wager 5 milli Bitcoin on any slot game after that, and you'll get 200 spins on the house just for being you. Bitcasino was ahead of the crypto game before the game got going. The original Bitcoin-led online gaming destination, they continue to set the standard for fun, fast, and fair gameplay. Do that part really quick again. Bitcasino was ahead of the crypto game before the game got going. The original Bitcoin-led online gaming destination, they continue to set the standard for fun, fast, and fair gameplay. Deposit, wager, and withdraw in Bitcoin, Ethereum, LiteCoin, TRON, and more, all in real time, all the time with Bitcasino. Right. Moving along. Are the Krogers and the eBays of the world seeing it on the other side where people are starting to ask and demand for payments? Or are they just saying that people want Bitcoin? Because as we touched on in the beginning, there's a lot of people who don't see Bitcoin as a payment method anymore. They want to stack sats, right? They don't want to spend them. So are they seeing it on the other side?
Not necessarily on the payment side yet.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're about I think we're still 5 years, maybe 10
Right.
years out for just Bitcoin to be a payment, true payment rail. And then also like, Lightning is in its infancy as well. And like, the Lightning Labs team is making incredible progress. Square is making incredible progress. There's, Square Crypto is making incredible progress. So we're seeing hints of like early adoption of the rails being set up, but we're not there yet. And really, it's like, our thesis is coming true. Both merchants and consumers have an aligned incentive to use Bitcoin as a rewards rail as opposed to a payment rail to start. And then after we've reached like sort of mass adoption where we have tens of millions of users that have all these like rewards, Bitcoin rewards, that's when I think we'll start to see people be like, okay, well, I have a lot of Bitcoin now, maybe I have more Bitcoin than I have fiat. And now I want to go put some of that to work and using spending rails almost as like an offboarding or like a off ramp.
Instead of selling it on an exchange, you just go spend a bit.
Exactly. And I also think in this beautiful way, it creates, when you understand the power of sound money, you also are way smarter with your money. So I love this, like, I love the meme, we lean into it a lot on Twitter, where it's like Bitcoin is your savings account and fiat is your checking account. And when you change that psychology, you get so much smarter with your money about like what you're spending, how diligent you are about your finances, because you're like, there's only 21 million of these things. And I am so lucky to have the amount that I have. So why would I want to get rid of these things? And so I think it's a better world. It's sort of like the dream of like these like savings apps and like, that teach you how to spend and teach how to save. That's what I think Lolli ultimately becomes. It's like, how do you save the most money on all of your purchases? And you get smart with where you're spending and where you're earning. And that's the future of commerce. That's the future of Bitcoin. That's the future of Lolli.
Yeah, and certainly the future of, personal finance is people understanding how important it is to passively invest and passively earn. The two. That's why apps like, Round the X in the crypto space or Acorns are so popular, because it takes money that you don't think about and it saves it for you. You guys are on the other side of that. It takes a little bit of Bitcoin, just keeps putting it away until one day you wake up in 5 years and you say, holy crap, I've got a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. It creeps up on you. And we literally have people who have earned 2 Bitcoin. Like,
I mean, that's crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
To earn 6 figures in rewards just shopping, when literally if you just hadn't turned it on, you wouldn't have that money.
Yeah, free money.
Literally free money.
Yeah.
The question is, you talk about it being 5 years down the road and all this. Does it ever even need to become a payment rail?
Maybe
especially
not.
in a world with now, listen, stable coins have eliminated some of the, the payment aspects of Bitcoin. Certainly it's faster, it's not volatile, it's generally cheaper to send. So, does Bitcoin need to do that to be a success, or can Bitcoin be what it is and, that sort of disappears, that narrative?
You're totally right. And this is actually more of like the 10-year time frame that we look at, where it may take long. It may take even longer than that, right? Because it actually has to be a mindset shift in the global ecosystem, where. But also, we're in the U.S., right? So we're thinking of it like we are so lucky to have, the quote unquote most stable currency in the world, the most powerful currency in the world being the U.S. dollar. Yeah, quote unquote. And so if you look at like, and this is what I studied in school, when you look at like macroeconomics and financial policies and the like sovereign countries and how they manage their wealth, everybody wants US dollars, right? So if everybody changes that mindset from wanting US dollars to now wanting Bitcoin, as if you're like a country that wants to literally hold Bitcoin on your treasury account, your balance sheet, like that's where I think we're going to start to see this like worldwide shift, where Bitcoin actually will become more stable than any currency in the world. I'm not an economist. I studied it in undergrad, but in no way am I an expert in this. But I do have this like macroeconomic belief that eventually that day will come where Bitcoin becomes more stable than any currency in the world. And it'll become more stable than many currencies that are not US dollar, that are not, the Chinese yen, well before, like, we need Bitcoin to become a payment rail. But at that point, Bitcoin will make sense as a payment rail because it will be more stable for 90% of the countries than the US, right? So US will probably be the last to see it. And we have to understand that as American citizens that rely on the US dollar being stable, that we're going to be the last to see it because we have the most stable currency. Up until then, Lolli and many companies, centralized companies like ours, will need stable coins and use stable coins very actively to serve as a rail. Like, at the end of the day, my biggest criticism of the payment space is not necessarily fiat, right? It's not like money printer go burr and I totally, am frustrated that I don't have control of the supply of my money. I am deeply frustrated by that. I can protest. I can say, hey, be more diligent with, money printing, and have some class in this all of what you're doing. But I have no control of that, right? Like, literally as an individual, I have no control of what my government is printing their money. I can try and vote for somebody, but it doesn't work, right? So sure, my Bitcoin is peaceful protest against the money printer, and the same thing, gold has been forever, and the US has never banned gold. The US isn't coming to your house right now and saying give me all your gold, or going to every jewelry store and saying give me all your gold. The same will be true for Bitcoin, and if we don't, we'll have a mass revolt if that changes. But the important thing to consider with stablecoins is that stablecoins, as Bitcoiners, we have to be pro stablecoin, because ultimately it will usher in the future of Bitcoin and hyper-Bitcoinization. And there's two camps here. There's people who are like, never stablecoins are shitcoins. And I just really violently disagree with that standpoint. I am more against the tax collectors along the way. There's so many, if you understand, most people that are actually against stablecoins and think of stablecoins as shitcoins, they don't understand payments. They might understand, fiscal policy. They might understand government, printing money, but they don't actually understand payments. And so the real enemy of it all is the tax collector. And I mean, the tax collector is like the middleman, the
third parties.
The third parties. And me as a payment person that is building businesses over the last 10 years on payment rails, the person that I'm actually way more upset about and want to remove from the equation is not the government. I actually think the government is actually very good in many cases, and in many cases does have our best interests. There are plenty of bad parties out there. There are plenty of bad actors out there. But for the most part, I'm trying to move money from point A to point B, and I've got 10 people that are taking money from me that don't need to be there. So with stablecoins, we remove everybody from that equation. And with Bitcoin, we definitely remove everybody from the equation, but we have to think realistically. We have to think in baby steps, and we have to think of what's our end goal here? We want to get to hyper-Bitcoinization as fast as possible. And the way to get to that is actually to adopt stablecoins and to give everybody in the world the ability to move money, whatever money that they choose. So you can't tell everyone in the world, take Bitcoin, do Bitcoin, this is the best currency in the world. That will come. Trust the process. Eventually you'll see there's 21 million of these things and there's unlimited amount of these things. What are you going to choose? Choose your fighter. We can't force feed that for somebody who grew up on the dollar, myself included, and the dollar is, for most people, good enough. And so you have to move from stablecoins first, then into Bitcoin. And that's where we'll see the future emerge of, I think, the future we all want to live in.
It's so true. It's almost like the money printing and fiscal policy are distraction for the problems that actually exist. Because like you said, you can vote for someone in theory, but we both know that both parties are going to print. So there's nobody that you can vote for that's going to change this, because no party wants to be the one that gets elected and tells you that you're going to have austerity and a depression.
Exactly.
So, at the end of the day, it's really the boots on the ground are eliminating all of the middlemen in these transactions. You've been through it and down the road, obviously, and you talked very much at the beginning about paying people in foreign countries and how complex that obviously becomes.
Oh my God.
Well, and what I have experienced when you dumb that even down further, paying someone a small amount of money in a foreign country is effectively impossible.
Yes.
Right? You can't send somebody $5 in Africa without them paying $15 or $20 to get the $5.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
And most people don't understand that, you know, like
if it arrives at all.
right. Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not a payments guy like you are, but that seems like that's what all of this fixes. And that's why if you truly want decentralization and if you truly believe in the ethos of Bitcoin, you should support stablecoin so that I can just send somebody $5 for making a cool image for me from the Philippines.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the future of payments. Like it's the inevitable future. We will not derail that. And I mean, I see it clear as day from, you know, where I'm at, where, you know, come from the payments world. I see everything that's broken in the payments world. You know, I've been moving money on the internet since I was, you know, for the last just like 16 years now. Right. So I see everything that's broken. We need a internet native currency or we need internet native currencies to get to the inevitable future of a Bitcoin standard.
You also talked about the idea of central banks putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think that I personally, maybe I'm, exceedingly bullish. I think that that's something we see within 12 months, personally.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I believe that that's something, well, not in the United States, but as you said, in other countries.
I guarantee it's already happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Estonia might have, I could be wrong. I think Estonia already made a play there, but I bet it's happened way more than we actually know. And most treasuries are not going to be as transparent.
And it might not be the countries that the United States wants to discuss at the moment who have had the foresight to do it, because it's probably to circumvent some sanctions that we've put on them. But that said, if that's kind of the final boss, central banks, well, we're seeing the progress towards that now. I want to talk about, obviously, we had MicroStrategy. We've talked that to death, but Tesla, right? I mean, Tesla comes in with a $1.5 billion buy. Do you think that that's the floodgates to this sort of activity where corporations, countries, and, we go up that ladder, start to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet?
Yeah, so it's full circle too. Like if you've been following us on Twitter, I've been tweeting at Elon for 3 years now to I just win Bitcoin, win Bitcoin rebate, win Bitcoin back, all this stuff. And there's a reason why I'm tweeting at him and not Ford, right?
Right.
Tesla is such a leader and they understand memetic engineering, and they understand how, Elon in particular, he understands how the internet works, right? And so because of that, it is he's such a force, and Tesla is thus such a force that everybody's going to go follow them. They've proven enough success at this point. I mean, I think it's safe to say they make one of the best cars in the world, the history of the world, and so he's such a leader that everybody has to be looking at him, being like, okay, what does he know about Bitcoin that I don't? What does Michael Saylor know that I don't? And so it is the floodgate opening, and the MicroStrategy summit, where they were talking to all of our merchants, saying put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And I'm seeing the list of people who are on these Fortune 1000 merchants that are on there, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been preaching to some of these merchants forever. Some of them are holdouts, right? And so now their CFO that I personally know 2-3 years ago said we're never giving Bitcoin rewards, are now putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So what happens for us? What happens for them? This is the floodgate. And the most beautiful thing about Bitcoin is everybody has access to it. So you can sit there on your armchair and just ignore it and say, oh, well, I'll get in later. I'll get in when it goes up, and it's going to be too late. So it's everybody has to have some sort, everybody should own Bitcoin. There's no excuse at this point, whether you're earning it, whether you're buying it, everybody has to have some amount of Bitcoin so that you understand it. And everybody should read the Bitcoin standard. Everybody should read the Satoshi white paper. Everybody should listen to this podcast and share it with their friends. You have to understand what money is, or you will get left behind.
I literally was tweeting about it today. I said, there's 2,000 companies showed up to Michael Saylor's conference on how to buy Bitcoin, right? If 5% of them decide to do it, we've got 100 more companies. We haven't even gotten 10 yet.
Oh my God. Tip of the iceberg.
Right. And so, I mean, what is that going to do? Even for the people who just care about making money, what does that do to the price?
And that's fine. That's a thing that I think also there's a lot of people that have been in Bitcoin for a long time that are more principles thinkers, and I would consider myself this as well, of Bitcoin solved a problem for me as a payments engineer early on, to say like, oh my God, clear as day, principles of this, the technology of this, price is cool, but it's not the coolest part. That said, I am very self-aware of what Bitcoin is to most people. And most people, they see a gold rush, they see a Bitcoin rush. They're like, I want to make money. And that, we have to be completely honest with ourselves. That is a feature of Bitcoin, and that should be accepted and applauded, and number go up technology, it should be, like applauded. That said, the number go up technology is the red pill for the principles. So like if you follow us on Twitter, if you follow our, if you subscribe to our emails, if you use Lolli, half of our messaging is around the principles of Bitcoin, why the price is going up, why it's so interesting, why it's such an important thing for the world. And if we discount the principles, we also like don't do a service to our users that are coming in through the price. They are saying, I want to earn more points than Rakuten, or more cash back than Rakuten. It's like we have to teach people about why your money is going up and why this technology is so important. And that's why I'll share the crap out of this podcast, because we're all like, people who have never learned about Bitcoin are definitely getting into Bitcoin education because they originally got into it because of the price, and now they're starting to listen about the principles, the economics, the philosophy of what money is and what it will become.
You just described me, right? I wasn't here in 2013 looking for a payment solution. I was a dude looking to make a whole lot of money when I heard about it in 2016 and early 2017. And all my friends were talking about getting hilariously rich, buying complete shitcoins on like exchanges with Bitcoin pairs. I didn't even understand what I was buying or what it was worth. It was just everything was going up. And I sort of backed into the importance of it and all the things that we've discussed about Bitcoin as hard money. So I think that, listen, the number go up thing didn't work in 2017 because the world wasn't ready, and it really was sort of a speculative bubble. But now when you have the floor of MicroStrategy, Tesla, and all of these companies and future governments coming in, it's a very, very different time for retail to FOMO in my opinion.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're totally right. I think a lot of people came in the way that you came in, and it makes sense. We have to be like totally accepting and welcome that.
Yeah, because they're going to find, as you said, the real red pill is getting excited about how much money you're making.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think just a lot of people don't see that. So, I mean, I never asked for price targets, anything like that. So it's now I'm just curious, like a lot of people, every time it goes up, want to call it the top, right? Because it's just, the numbers become so mind blowing. 50,000, 100,000, 300,000, a million. I mean, do you think that it's reasonable to expect that sort of appreciation?
I to this date, I've never given a price target, and it's not one of those things where it's like, I think giving a price target in my mind is giving financial advice to people. And I will never give financial advice. I think that the way to think about it is, the more people that adopt this and adopt the philosophy that like you and I have adopted, it is crazy to think that more people adopting this technology and treating it the way that we treat it, which is like, I treat Bitcoin as like, a dominant currency. Like I treat it as like I'm never selling my Bitcoin, right? So like what does that become? The more people that believe that are never selling their Bitcoin, there's only 21 million of these things.
Right.
So what do you think is going to happen with the price? Is like what I always push back on the answer. And I always say, like, read the Bitcoin Standard, read the Satoshi white paper, do your own research, like, listen to podcasts, like, get active on Bitcoin Twitter about trends that are happening. Like there's so many resources that fit with the philosophy of Bitcoin that are accessible to everybody. And it's like, do your own research and figure out for yourself what you think it's going to be. But I don't think numbers going down. I'll say that much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't give targets either, honestly. And I'm a trader, so I know I'm going to look dumb, right? So I don't, it's just like, there's no upside to that.
Yeah, you're just spotting trends. You're like, do the education, like figure it out
at the most basic level. I mean, literally you should be able to explain to a middle schooler the simple concepts of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we are seeing factually on-chain metrics showing that the supply is being removed from the exchanges. It's being removed from the market. It's being sent into cold storage. And when you talk about and think about these huge numbers, well, I mean, Bitcoin did a 13x this year. Like we just talked about, 2x is 6 figures.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, this is not abnormal price movement for Bitcoin to expect those crazy prices. So I think it's totally reasonable. I just have no idea where that ceiling is. Do you think that any of these companies that are buying it to put it on their balance sheet have a number in mind where they eventually are like, this is too crazy and I'm selling it?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, people are going to sell all along the way, and then they're going to regret it. So it's there's really no. I mean, any number that goes up is like, people are going to try to take gains and like realize those gains. I just don't. I think everybody, like, I've regretted every time I've ever sold. So now I'm in this position where I'm like, well, I'm just never selling. I just always have. I have to make more money so that I can have more Bitcoin, but I'm never selling my Bitcoin.
Right. You're probably in the unique situation where your job covers your life and you don't need to. I mean, there's obviously going to be people
Totally.
who, have life things come up where they sell. But I think that most people share that same principle. And I don't think you put something on your balance sheet to sell it in 6 months at a 2x and take short-term capital gains. I mean, reasonably, I think the minute you say I'm putting this on my balance sheet as an asset, you're locking it down, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
At least that's what I believe. So I have to ask, will you ever allow rewards in other cryptocurrencies? Or are you sticking to Bitcoin?
I mean, we've had clearly like every token project, every one on, like, from Ethereum has been pitching us since we launched to launch. And I'm a big believer that Bitcoin has already like served society. It's already proven its value to society in a very real way. And also the direction that we're heading is, we're trying to create a payment network, right? Payment rails on top of Bitcoin, loyalty network on top of Bitcoin. And if we had given other cryptocurrencies that maybe don't serve our users, and like we aren't as confident in, like, let's just say we gave someone some token that like went down or something like that, that they then have a bad experience with Lolli. It's like, I knew from like 2017 when we launched in a bear market that Bitcoin was going to go up, like near 100% certainty. I'm like, it has too much value. It's too important. It's already served its value to society. And so I was like, I just need to give this to more people. I need more people to come on board. So with everything else, like Ethereum, for as cool and interesting as it is, it hasn't served society in the same way. It has served developers to build decentralized applications, dApps. And I mean, I'm not like I am a Bitcoin maximalist in many senses, but I am not the kind of Bitcoin maximalist that is like saying there will never be anything else in the
Right.
world. Like, I am a very open-minded maximalist in that I want things to challenge Bitcoin. I want things. I just haven't seen it. So like, I think stablecoins that are largely built on top of Ethereum are absolutely incredible. And as we talked about before, an inevitable path to hyperbitcoinization. That said, we are in its infancy, and there's so many things that can break Tether and break, stable coins right now. And we are in day one of stable coins, and we're in day one of Bitcoin too. But we would be naive to say like we're never going to have any other thing to emerge. My like first principles thinking though is, does it have a path to hyperbitcoinization? That is my philosophy. So I want all of our users to ultimately have Bitcoin. And so sure, like if someone wants to earn stablecoin back at some point, that's an inevitable future, and they want to earn interest on those stablecoins. I'm more of a believer in the free market than anything.
Right.
So to take away something from someone that they want to earn, it should not be entirely up to me, that someone should not be able to earn something that they are demanding. And to be perfectly honest, we've had a lot of demand over the last few months to earn things. And I take a philosophy. I'm like, who am I to say that somebody shouldn't be able to earn what they want to earn? Like, I am more of a free market thinker than I am to say like, you have to earn Bitcoin. Like, this is the thing. I can believe it all I want. I can shape my marketing around it. And actually, I think we've seen it with different exchanges. There's been some exchanges that are very Bitcoin centric and will not shill, shit coins here and there. And then there's some that are like, shit coin casinos. So
Right.
we can very much take a stance where we're going to be Bitcoin first, but we can take an approach where it's like, okay, maybe you should have, stable coins back if you think Bitcoin's dipping or whatever it is. And maybe those stable coins you can use to like pay with things. and maybe that's more pervasive currency. So yeah, I mean, that was a long answer to saying I am very open-minded, and I'm just saying, like, tell me what you guys want as users of our currency. If you want stablecoins over Bitcoin, that's up to you. It's not up to me.
Right. Interesting what you said about the exchanges. I had Dan Held on the show, and he's like the Bitcoin maximalist of all maximalists, and he works at Kraken, and they trade altcoins, but he talks about Bitcoin on his own time. So I think that like that is a very common thing. I want to touch on something you said. You said that in 2017 and 2018, like you never had a doubt, 100% it's going up. You maintained your conviction. I don't think that's the case for most people. So A, why? And B, how gratifying is to see Bitcoin over $50,000 after that?
I take the Matt Odell approach of stay humble. So I think like I
don't want to dunk on everyone. It's hard.
No, I'm not. Look. I'm 5'9". I can't dunk, right? So not yet. I'm working on it. But it's I think that like I very much believe that the way that you convince 4 billion people is not by dunking on them. It's by inviting them, having like an open mind and saying like, look, this is what I believe, and you don't have to believe the same thing, and that's fine. And like I think like you have to be open-minded. You can't be like force feeding this thing. You have to almost like Trojan horse red pill somebody into believing Bitcoin. And that's the beauty of Lolli. That's what it is, right? It's not saying buy this, like take your hard-earned money. It's
here it is.
Yeah, it's like here it is.
Free.
Like it's free. So come on board. And it's like the $10 that you earn is now $40. Like that's how you're going to convince people. And so it's like my philosophy is true with my product. And so sure, like I have friends that are being like that. I said in 2013, hey, read the white paper. Hey, consider Bitcoin. Still to this day, I've never told anyone to buy Bitcoin. I know that's surprising to be in the Bitcoin space. I've never told anyone to buy Bitcoin. And a lot of my friends are pissed that I didn't tell them to buy Bitcoin. But I'm pissed that they didn't go read the Bitcoin Standard when it came out. I'm pissed that they didn't read the Satoshi white paper when it came out. I've said day one, do your research. This is fundamentally going to change the world. It is extremely important, and you need to do your research. And people ignored me. So I give those friends shit that like didn't read. I don't give them shit for not buying. But if they didn't read, and because I know some of them are so smart, and if they had read the shit that I sent them, they would have bought that day. And the same way I bought, right? Like the same way I got into it. So that's my thing. I'm not going to dunk on anybody, but I am going to say, hey, you should have read this thing when I told you to read it. You should have listened to this podcast. Teach a man to fish.
Teach a man to fish, right? I mean, you can't tell people what to do. They need to come to it themselves. I mean, I still have friends, no matter how high it goes, that somehow in their mind, the higher the price goes, the more it reinforces to them that it's not valuable, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
But because maybe it's PTSD from 2017 or whatever, they still have that in their mind, and they think that inevitably it has to go down. But I think what you're saying, and what I believe also that's really important, is that it really is still early, in my opinion.
Very early. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are like, I'm not buying it at $54,000. I don't know what the price will be when this comes out, but there's a lot of people who say that to me. Oh, I should have bought it at 20. I'm not buying it at 50.
Exactly. So I totally agree. We're in day one of this, like, this Bitcoin revolution, this crypto revolution. And I mean, now's the time, like whether you're stacking sats with Lolli or whether you're buying Bitcoin, now's the time to get involved and do your research, right? Like there's so many resources out there. So it's like, there's really no excuse. Take a couple hours on a Sunday and just like, do your research.
Awesome. I love what you guys are doing. I absolutely love your conviction and that you stuck it out. You were early and you stuck it out for this long. So it's nice to see, I'm sure, the fruits of your labors. Where can everybody follow you and sign up?
Yeah. So Lolli.com, LOLLI.com. Try Lolli on Twitter. We're super active. A lot of fun memes. And then, my DMs are always open. If people have questions, our company's DMs are always open. Support at Lolli.com if you ever have issues. I mean, keep stacking those sats and keep building the future we all want to live in. And I appreciate you and everything you're doing for crypto education and teaching people, showing people the light. And yes, keep listening to the pod.
We're going to meme our way right to the top.
Exactly. To the moon.
Well, thank you again, man. I appreciate it.
Scott, great meeting you. Take care.
That's dope.